Yeah, Matt is moving to the air fryer business, which has no ties.
while listening to the Bible and audiobook. Get
Exactly.
on him.
Yeah.
Work for it, you're a baby.
What's up, guys? What's going on? We got Albert with us tonight, and we got Mr. Andy Fellner filling in for Matt.
Good evening.
Special episode.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey guys.
You guys awake? I know you had a long couple of days.
Yeah, we did. We delivered
Yeah.
the second Maguro Bocho, the second tuna sword yesterday. And we were invited to this huge event where they sliced up the tuna in, what's it called? Carinthia, Canton.
In Millstedt.
Okay.
Millstadt, yeah.
No, it's Millstedt, right?
No, Millstadt. And unless you're a Keith, then it's Millstadt.
Oh, it could be either of them.
Yeah.
I got both of it.
Then I sliced up a 250 kilogram tuna yesterday with our knives, which was quite an event. So
It was a pretty long night too.
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
No, but we got lucky because we didn't have to pay for it. We were invited, so the both of us.
Well, I saw the pictures, and I thought you guys, when you told me all about it, I thought you were going to be like showing up in suits, and it was like
No,
a suit and tie kind of thing. And then I saw the pictures, and
No, we don't do that.
no. It was
We're not
that's
the
what I
suit
figured.
guys.
but-
it was actually very informal, the event. So it was not just us who were not dressed up like fully, but it was a very informal and relaxed event. So
yeah. So what was it? 200 and what did you say? 67
I mean, they
kilos or
waited
something
at
tuna.
the host told it that it's 250, and then they waited and it was 277. We don't know exactly whether it's with what's it called, intestines, or what's it called,
Yeah, with all
organs,
the
yeah.
insides. Yeah.
or without.
It was something like 257. And on the box there was a mark with 230 kilos. So nobody really knows how heavy it really was then.
Yeah, but that's still a huge fish. So that's like small details, but the important part
It was
was
crazy.
how did the knife perform?
Awesome.
Yeah, very good.
We made a couple of videos, but we didn't upload them yet because we just got back today in the afternoon.
They had the two tuna swords, and they had one knife to work with. It was a RWL34 Kiritsuka knife, and I mean they performed pretty well. They had some sawing knives too, like a big bread knife.
Like a serrated
Yes,
knife.
they used for the
Yeah.
what's it called, what the fish uses for swimming,
For the fins.
and they're pretty hard,
Okay.
so they wouldn't use the fine knives for that.
But we were kind of nervous, especially me. We were standing next to the guys, and and they mean no bullshit. It was they were using the knives pretty heavily, and I was kind of worried because it was a hidden tang Kiritsuka RWR34 knife, as Andy said, and they were bending it and turning it and inside the fish. I was standing next to the fish, and I was hoping that it's not going to break. Yeah,
Because
but it performed, and it's still sharp. Surprisingly sharp. The Kiritsuka he used the most.
Yeah.
they used it the whole night, like
Yeah.
straight 2 hours for the first event where they cut open the fish and all the stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine it's pretty stressful.
Yeah,
All that work into the knives. And not only one I mean it's not a knife, it's a sword. I mean, this is like a samurai sword size, and you made two of them
yeah.
to make sure that he could pick out the one that he wanted, and he ended up buying both of them. And then you go to this event
Yep.
where everybody's invited and they're talking all about you, and the two of you are there who made the knives, and then you're like watching and making sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, we even cleaned the knives during the event because it was all, it's greasy, and so we actually cleaned the knives.
Yeah.
During the event, so because the way they did it, they had a massive table made, which was in the middle of the room, and people were sitting around the huge table where the fish was on. And it
Yeah.
took, I don't know, 8 or 10 people to carry the fish into the restaurant.
Yeah, because they wasn't prepared for that. I
Yeah,
mean,
they were
if
not.
they had a pallet wagon, they could have drove it in and then just left it on the table. But no, they were prepared for that.
The stacker.
The stack.
We actually helped a lot because when we arrived, the fish was still outside the restaurant.
In the
Yeah.
cooling box.
Yeah, in the cooling box. So we helped putting it onto the table and carrying it into the restaurant.
And the guy was trying to park next to it and nearly rammed into it with the car on the fish. The guy didn't even notice. He just parked there and I mean, and missed the fish by 1 or 2 centimeters. It was like crazy. And the guy who bought the fish, the owner of the restaurant, he was like freaking out completely. Go away, drive off.
Do you guys know where the fish came from? Spain. Because I saw the pictures of it, and like growing up on the East Coast in the USA, when you see a tuna fish, it looks way different. I mean, that was a big fish, but it didn't look like somebody just caught it. Like, I'm used to somebody catches it, you're cutting it open like a couple hours after they caught it and they brought it into the docks. But that's not possible here in the middle of Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I caught it. It was a bluefin tuna, I think. That's how they're called.
Yeah.
And it was caught a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So
On Friday.
I think it was Monday. On Friday, Grisha placed the order
Yeah.
in Spain.
Correct.
Because the guy who sold the fish was sitting at our table, so that's why we know how it went down. Grisha, the guy who sold the fish, ordered it on Friday in Spain, and I think they caught it Monday. And then they had it delivered like with an overnight truck or something on Wednesday. It arrived Wednesday at 4 a.m.
So they're placing an order with the hopes that somebody can catch the fish in the size that they want.
Yeah, they have different like tubs where the fishes are in the middle of the sea.
Yeah.
And they have different tubs with fishes in different sizes.
Okay, so they're already like they know that these fish exist
Yeah,
in that.
that's right.
area.
So
Okay.
they have a tub with fishes between 200 and 300 kilos, and then even bigger ones.
Okay.
And they delivered the fish, and you could see the hole where they shot him with the harpoon, or what's it called?
With the
Yeah,
harpoon,
that's
yeah.
crazy. It's like the
Yeah.
biggest hole in middle of the head. So I'm sure they're well trained where they shot the fishes, because they have one shot.
Yeah, so I've seen it many times, like growing up in the U.S., like I said, growing up on the coast, and they catch fish like that. They catch tunas, and they do like a sample. They have like this special tool. They push it into the fish, pull it out, and then they would like squeeze out like this core sample of the fish onto the table and examine it and see how much fat it has. And you could catch that fish with 250 kilos. It might be worth 10 grand, or it might be worth 15 or 20 grand, depending on the quality of the meat that's in it.
They had done that on the
it's a crazy sport.
They had done it on the backside of the fish. They cut out a big chunk of meat where they checked how much fat the fish has.
Yeah, crazy.
It was pretty fun to watch. The cooks were also pretty nervous because they never had like cook and cut open a fish that size. But it was nice to watch. It was pretty fast because I don't know what they thought. They just started and cut it open and not even talked about it to the guests, because all the guests were standing like in a circle around the table,
waiting for this. So it wasn't cooked. You guys had sushi, or was it also cooked?
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Sashimi.
All kinds. Everything tuna.
Sushi. I don't know what what all these things are called, right? But there was definitely sushi. Then there was like a sausage they made out of the tuna. Then there was leberkäse they made out of tuna. So, yeah, so it was
Really?
Yeah.
It has to be a leberkäse.
Like Käse-Leberkäse. So
Yeah.
cheese.
So the translation is cheese, liver, cheese.
Out of tuna.
But there's no liver in it.
No, there's no liver. Also, it's like small burgers with tuna meat.
They make steaks out of it, everything, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Small steaks. They had around, I don't know, 10 dishes. And after the 5 ones, you just couldn't eat any or see any tuna anymore because
I think it was 12, not just 10.
Yeah,
I think they said it's
that was
12.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean it was just too much tuna, to be honest. It's like 12 courses with tuna.
How many people ate off the 240 kilo tuna fish?
Yesterday was how many was it? 150?
167.
Okay.
They counted.
Okay.
But there's still plenty of tuna left, so they're gonna have tuna for the next couple of months. So.
And the cook said they had around 30% in cut-offs, so that's crazy too. Like it's just waste.
Yeah.
Because they could have cut it better, but they weren't used to it, how to do it, and
Yeah,
so,
just
it's
experience.
the first time doing that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could clearly see that was their first time doing that, because sometimes they use the wrong knife for different applications. Like we were standing there and we would have said I would use the bigger sword or the smaller sword for that kind of application. They just used to, I don't know, a random small knife for that. For big cuts.
Yeah, but it was also like a presentation kind of thing, and they had this huge knife from you guys, or the sword, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the name of it is, and they want to present it and show it off, and so it doesn't really matter. They want to. A lot of it is the presentation, I guess, at that point, because you guys were all sitting around with the fish on the table, and you could see it all happen what they were cutting.
But it was nice to watch. Nice to watch.
Quite spectacular. Yeah.
Nice to watch.
Nice, but nerve-wracking a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially when they forced the sword through the fish, like with two people took on the sword and pull it through. Then you hear a bone cracking again and something like that. But the knife performed pretty well. And also later on they used the bigger swords for filleting the bigger parts, and they just sliced nicely through the meat, and it was nice seeing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hopefully you guys get some more business from that. Maybe you'll be making more tuna swords in the future.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's a nice project.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna skip my week. I didn't do a whole lot. Getting ready for shows and order new materials, and we have a guest waiting for us that would like to introduce, and that's the reason why we have Andy Fellner from the Salzburg Messerschmitt with us, because Andy was part of the two people who helped restore a power hammer for our new guest. So we'd like to introduce Fingal Ferguson to the show. Fingal, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
this
Fingal.
is torture. I was having to be quiet in the background with 1,000 questions about the tuna.
Yeah, he kept raising his hand. He wanted to jump in there. Like, not yet.
Like an over eager child dying to ask questions and stuff like that. Yeah.
Go ahead, shoot.
It sounded incredible.
Shoot, ask us about it.
Well, I'm kind of interested about the construction of like it's a Moguro
Yes.
Bocho, isn't it? That's the kind of the sword. Tell me about the profile and the sort of the thickness of the steel. Was a curvature in the back of the spine, the sort of the tempering of the spine. Is there what I want actually? I'd love to hear what it took to actually make it. And was the kiln big enough to actually fit the blade in?
Yes.
It needs to.
Luckily, I mean, we have a big oven for annealing long Damascus billets, and that's what we used for hardening. But we hardened them separately. So we built 2 knives with different spine thicknesses. So one was, I think, 3.5 mil, and the other at the spine, and the other one was, I think, over 5 mil. So a heavier one and a lighter one. And he actually used both. So the heavier Maguro Bocho for the a bit tougher cuts, and the lighter one for finer cuts.
And did you say that was RWL 34?
No, that was Damascus.
Yeah, that was 200 layers to Damascus.
Yeah, that was, the RWL 34 was the Kiritsuke he used for smaller tasks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were they single bevel? Both single bevel?
Single bevel, both, yes. One was with forge scale on it, and the other one was clean, so without any forge scale, so all polished.
But of course, only on the bevel side, because on the back side it needs to be clean.
Yeah.
So they can slice easily through the meat. Because if
did you curve the back of the blade?
No, they need to.
You went with a straight.
Yeah, they need to be straight, because when they push through the meat, they want like a straight cut on the floor. Then.
Okay, yeah. So it's not all single bevel knives will have that kind of curvature on the sort of the reverse of the blade.
You mean like a samurai sword, a katana, this kind of curvature, or what kind of curvature?
I might try and curve it up. I might try and Google the name of it, but I know that if you imagine that the single bevel is on one side of the blade, and on the opposite side of the knife, which would be the sort of that side usually has a sort of a hollow grind.
Yes, it does. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
This side you mean? So not the katana.
Oh, okay.
Curvature, so upwards where the blade is
from the edge to the spine is one big hollow grind, and then the other side is the single bevel.
Yeah.
Because the one of the things I've tried making a few. There's a wonderful gentleman Takeshi Miyazaki, who's based in Cork, who I've always gone to kind of learn more about Japanese knives. I'm not going to try and ever get the terminology and the names right, because I always feel I'm probably insulting a couple of million Japanese whenever I pretend a little farmer in West Cork knows anything about Japanese knives. But I am fascinated by it, and the most surprising things are the learning curves in making these knives kind of hit you as you're halfway through, like trying to keep the blade straight when you're sort of doing all the grinding, and then the heat treating will create so many warps, and there's all these kind of things that you kind of, the hurdles you have to get past to make such long knives. So I'm just kind of fascinated by the process and what it kind of took to make it.
I mean, the way we heat treated it was we used a planche quaid after the oil, right? So we used our welding table, and we clamped it to our welding table to keep it straight
with big plates.
And did you pre-grind much of it before you heat treated?
Not too much, a bit.
Yes, okay. One no, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I got you. Because I was lucky. I tried to do it, and I was using like a sumanagashi, so the cladding on one of them was quite soft. So it was kind of, it helped in being able to straighten them. And then I've done them as well with fully kind of hardened blades, and I found that one gave a few challenges, but it's a stunning process. I mean, it's one of those things where you always spend your life trying to make really light knives, and you suddenly find yourself making these knives that have to take this incredible abuse of, like you say, striking bones and sort of being so crazy. Blade heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world. I'm looking forward to kind of learning more about it at some point, and I really hope I get the chance to go to Japan and actually experience a little bit more of it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that other steels, like on the small knife, on the Kiritsuke, other than RWL 34, wouldn't perform that good, because that steel is like crazy. They worked and they chopped on the bones and all the stuff, and and end of the day, it's still sharp. So,
yeah, well, there's great toughness in RWL 34. I mean,
yeah,
like,
and
it is
fine
it's
steel.
the most wonderful kind of kit. It's one of my favorite kitchen knife steels and the stainless world, for a powdered metallurgical steel, because it still allows you to sort of be able to mirror polish it and sort of grind it without, like, unlike 4V or one of these intense, MagnaCut that actually puts up a huge fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you get great results, but at the same time, as a maker, it allows you to at least progress, get through the project before you pull all your hair out.
Yeah, it's a super fine steel. It was a joy to watch.
There's a lovely guy that taught me a lot about it. He worked with Robert Lovelace, or Bob Lovelace, which is the RWL. I think Robert W. Lovelace is where RWL 34 comes from, the name. And so I kind of inherited it through kind of the guy who taught me. And he always had this lovely expression that he said he loves RWL because when he's trying to polish it, it's very buttery. And I kind of always had this funny connection. I always think of it every time I have to hand sand or polish RWL. I said, this fucker is not buttery.
No,
but
it's
I know
not,
what he
definitely
means.
not. It's crazy.
But but when you compare it to and then I started grinding other steels and trying to hand sand. When you try to like mirror polish any of these other really hard steels, you kind of realize, actually, do you know what? RWL is definitely up there, and one of the easier blades steels to work with. So good on them. They have a kind of good formula there, and I think it's a lovely steel to make the blade out of. So fair dues to you. I'm looking forward to seeing some pictures of this.
Yeah, and it also takes a super nice edge on it, because it when you sharpen it, it gets a super fine burr, in my opinion. Nice to break and super nice to work with.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So when did you actually go out of your way to choose the steel for that, or is in stock, and that was one of the steels that was leading the way, or did you specifically choose RWL for this project?
No, we make almost all of our stainless kitchen knives are made out of RWL 34. That's our go-to stainless steel.
Good on you. Yeah, you're definitely raising the bar by doing that. I kind of have 14C28N and RWL as my two kind of favorite stainlesses for that, because I think the 14C is just a little bit more accessible and easier to work with and affordable.
Yeah.
And then when I'm feeling fancy, dead fancy, and I feel like it's a beautiful knife. I've actually just finished about 12 knives with RWL, and
nice.
so it is a pleasure to work. I like the mill scale, or not the mill scale, but the finish, if on the steel surface as well.
Yeah. And for the Mokuro Bocho, they definitely want the Damascus to show off.
Which pattern did you go with?
Random pattern. It was kind of a ladder pattern. Yeah.
By coincidence.
Yeah. My favorite pattern at the moment is Thor. And I if you look at Thor in a certain direction, it looks like a whole stack of penises. I don't know if you
But the Mokuro
so
Bochos,
it's now officially my favorite.
But the Mokuro Bochos, there were Damascus from in-house, so they wasn't stainless.
Okay.
There was the in-house forged Damascus.
What do they do with the carcasses and everything? Is that where all the sort of like the trimmings that they would take from the tuna would be used for all the sort of the dishes and sort of the burgers?
Yeah, exactly.
The what?
Mm-hmm.
The trimming, the bits that you kind of cut off the bones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I heard something different.
I've never I've cut up pigs all my life, and I've gone to Spain where you would sort of, and I've gone to Germany and Austria and done all these kind of things where we've cut up pigs, because the lovely, I mean, the Austrian, the famous Mangalitsa pig, which comes from your side of the world, which is probably one of the most noble animals and the most delicious, but also one of the few the pigs in the world that actually grows wool, which is, I think, also kind of amazing. And a great friend of mine introduced me. And what's interesting about the whole process of that kind of using everything, something that's reared or comes, the tuna is definitely a special and quite beautiful, and quite honestly should be treated as a celebration, when processed. And to use everything is kind of the whole process of making broths and the soups and using the bones and the skin and everything. And I think that sounded very much probably like the exciting part of what these events are. Is actually, it's very obvious to kind of cut a bit of sashimi, but it's the things you don't see. It's the stuff you see behind the curtain, in a kitchen when they're processing the tuna. That's the exciting part of the whole process.
I mean, they definitely used everything on the head, because later on they cut off the like nice pieces of the head. I'm not sure what they're called.
The cheeks.
Yeah, the cheeks.
Yeah,
And also the eyes and some other parts they used for, like you said, for making soup or something like that.
Yeah.
And also the cheeks are pretty nice to have on sushi, but they kept those. So I'm not sure if they have done anything on the backs, like on the end side of the fish.
Oh, the intestine, like the internals.
No, not the internals, like the last piece where the big
The fin.
the thing is. Yeah, I'm not sure what they have done with that, because it's pretty fatty, and also
It was bad. Probably a broth or soup. I mean, like shark fin soup and stuff. Which
correctly.
Did you have to travel far? I heard you mention the place, but did you have to get on a plane to go for this trip?
No,
not by car.
2.5 hours, something like that.
Cool. Yeah, I've been. This week has been kind of exciting because we've been in the background looking forward to organizing the knife show, which we're traveling to your beautiful country to go over in May, and the excitement of it is kind of there's so many people coming, and we're looking forward to a road trip with all getting together, and who's renting the car and who's arriving at what time, and it's like, even though it's months away, you sort of have to get on top of these things, and I'm very much looking forward to hopefully catching up and seeing you guys over there, and raising. I haven't been when you sent over the forge. Sorry, not the forge. The power hammer.
The hammer, yeah.
One of the biggest surprises and the pleasant surprises were these, of all the packaging and the wrapping and everything that kind of went. I mean, this hammer traveled from, through several countries to get to Ireland, and the lorry driver, who's this lovely fella, kind of hopped out of the truck and brought it all down, and all the foam and the Soulamer and everything. And in the middle of everything was 2 perfectly wrapped up bottles of Austrian beer.
It was,
and
like,
I thought
two
that
pills.
it was the most perfect thing. Now, I haven't been drinking for January and February. In fact, I'm really looking forward to going back on the sauce. It's kind of like I do Lent in a reverse order. I think if you drink as much alcohol as I do, it's really good to give it up for a couple of months so you can't be accused of being an alcoholic. So I've kept the beers, and they're still all wrapped up, and I think we're literally looking forward to the day that I actually crack into the forge, or get the forge going and start using the power hammer. That those bottles of beer are going to get popped open, and we're going to raise the first glass to you guys. So I have 1,000 questions, but I think you should probably lead the way.
Yeah, I mean,
what kind of beer did they send to you guys?
Uttendorfer Pils. It's kind of our
Yeah.
favorite beer at the moment, because it's nice to drink, and it's 0.3 milliliters, right?
It's proper
So it's a
beer.
small
It's
one,
a
yeah.
small one, yeah, and you can drink it pretty fast, and it's nice to have always have
It
a cold beer.
screams. It gives off that impression of being a very crisp beer. The funny thing is that when you in Ireland, when I grew up, all the terrible beers like Carlsberg and Heineken and Budweiser and all this piss that's really watery shit that just has no flavor. It's an easy drinking kind of like simple beer, and you suddenly go traveling across Germany and Spain. You get beer with character.
Yeah,
There's so much more to it, but there's this refreshing element to beers. And one of my favorite things is, like the Irish are famous for drinking, but you suddenly find that young kids, you're allowed to drink at 16 when you go to your. Is it the same in Austria?
it's the same.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 16
Yeah.
for beers
So
and wine.
I went. Yeah, I was just gonna say I went over there on a school trip, and I've been drinking since I was 5. When I was 5 years old, I was kind of given like a shot glass with beer in it, and every year my glass just got bigger. So very experienced young kids suddenly find themselves not having to lie about their age when they get to Austria. And you start knocking back the beers. Do you also do those wonderful drinking games with the Jägermeister?
With the Flying Hirsch, like the
Yeah,
the
the
Red Bull
Jägermeister,
and
yeah.
Jägermeister.
Well, no. When I was younger, you could get a little bottle and it had foil on the top. And you'd peel the foil off and you'd put it into your teeth and you'd tilt your head back and then you'd drink back the shot. and then you'd put it on the table and you'd look at the bottom, and there's a number printed on the bottom of the bottle, and whoever had the lowest number had to buy the next round. And you'd keep drinking all night until the bottles, which were slightly square shaped, they were bigger at the top and narrow at the bottom, and you had to make a full circle of all these little bottles, and that's when at that stage you cannot walk, you cannot talk, you're fucked.
You guys are really invested in that. No, we take the top of the bottle off and put it on your nose, and you guys do a little cheers and drink it off.
Shit, I do that stuff with my dog. It sounds, what are you doing? What are you putting it on your nose? It sounds like don't move, stay, sit, drink. What are you doing with your nose? I couldn't picture that. What do you mean you put the bottle in your nose?
No, the bottle cap.
No, not the bottle. The cap.
Oh!
You stick the cap on your nose. Okay. And it's supposed to stay on there until you finish the drink.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I didn't know there was numbers on the bottom. I never investigated the Jägermeister that much. You just drink it.
Yeah. Well, you get to a point where you just buy the big bottle. I have to look at the bottom of the big. Yeah, I wonder if a big bottle has the same number at the bottom. I don't know.
So, Fingal, what's up with the hammer? It's already
the hammer
running?
It is. So my great friend who is actually a knife guy. Oren O'Brien is this incredible character who comes from. He lives about an hour, maybe nearly. He's up in Cork City. I think he probably now lives in Kinsale, which is kind of nearly 2 hours away from here. But he's over the years the knife makers in West Cork, Sam Dunn, myself. We've all kind of come to know each other, and he's come to help us out with electrical projects. So when I built the last workshop, he always does this little surprise where he when he finished the project, he put up this giant disco ball as the last thing he did. And I came into the room to say, huge thank you for finishing the job. And he was like casually kept looking at the roof, and he kept looking at the roof. And he said, after half an hour of me like kind of standing in the room, he said, for fuck's sake, look up. There's this giant disco ball hanging from the roof. And I hadn't even copped it. I was just so excited. And this time when he finished the forge, which we it's not fully finished. I still want to build a kind of whole welding tables and sort of fix the place up. But it's a converted shed. But he put up a neon sign that says live nudes that actually comes on as soon as you turn.
I saw that.
Yeah, if you turn off the power to the main lights, the live nudes sign comes on. So you can hear the cows in the background and the pigs and the chickens and all this kind of stuff. And this neon sign that says live nudes. And I went home with great pride to show my wife, who really didn't think it was funny, but she's quite struck out. But so this room now has a shrine, and it's basking in the glow of a red neon sign.
Nice.
And I've been smashing wooden 2x4s with it and having great fun. But I feel I want to do it justice. I'm getting ready to finish a drop, and there's been a number of other projects, and kids have been sick and friends have been visiting. So I want to do a proper day of it, engage properly. But I know that like right now, what was quite interesting was getting it level, getting it seated, making sure the power was working, and the power's been on for 2 days. So I'm just going to do it properly, and it's kind of like I'm like a small kid with a toy that I'm not allowed to play with yet, but I can't wait. So can I ask you, you guys reconditioned it, but how old was it before you reconditioned it?
I mean,
roughly
maybe near 2000, like 1990, 1995 to 2000, something like that, because these hammers are not that old. So they're we have a prospect of that hammer, and I don't know. I mean, it's already in color, so printed in color and also digitalized. So I don't know. I'm guessing 1990, 1995, something like that.
Cool. Yeah, I kind of had a guess at that. I mean, what's kind of fascinating is when you look at a lot of power hammers, like it's got a 50 kilo kind of ram. It's got fantastic power in a very compact size. And you guys are absolutely in love with Bechet, and very rightly so. They're beautiful power hammers. But give me an interesting thing, because this is a fantastic. This is a little bit beyond a sort of a starting hammer. Like this is a very good, efficient, kind of powerful, but yet logical starting kind of hammer in many kind of ways, you know. But
Yes.
how would you separate the divide between when you're going for a very logical kind of hammer like I'm after getting, which is actually you could probably, I'm not going to pronounce it properly. Do you want to actually explain to people who are listening what the hammer I got was, and perhaps how other hammers differ and
Oh, it's gonna be a long episode.
Sorry.
I mean, if you man, it's really about your place and how much space you have for hammers. Because you would, I'm sure you can't fit a Becher in a small workshop because it's pretty high also, and it takes a lot of room. Also, the Bechers have a little heavier, how do you pronounce it? Like force. They have more force on it. They have the same ram weight, but they have on the.
There's more power behind it.
Yeah, that's right, because of the bigger anvil and more air are compressed, and so you need a bigger foundation for that stuff, because you can put it with the same ram size on your concrete floor, but I'm pretty sure the whole house will fall apart.
Yeah. Okay.
With
Yeah.
hammers like that. And if you have not too much space, then the smaller hammers are the way to go.
And it's because it's the Kuhn. Is it Kuhn Reiter?
Kuhnreiter.
Kuhnreiter, yeah.
Okay, and so the thing is the writer was kind of like, there is different variations. There was the design, but it was made by a couple of different factories or different places. That was the kind of the story behind it. In some ways, there was two different places that kind of made them.
Yeah, there are more places that made that hammers. Firms like Tannard and Sahindler and Saimek, Chinese hammers also made the same design. But the original design is from Kuhnreiter in Augsburg.
Okay, and this is a K23. So
yes,
what happens is that you can have multiple hammers, and they could all have, say, for example, a 35 or a 50 kilo anvil, like a hammer.
Yes,
but
ram.
Ram. Thank you. But the force behind it is different. And is that ever measured or calculated? Because that's something I didn't realize.
Yeah, you can measure it, and you can also calculate it with a piece of metal. And wait, I need to check. Blei.
Okay, so you technically punch it. So the 50 kilos is actually, if I was to take that whole top unit out and weigh it, that's the 50 kilos of the combined weight of the two, the hammer and the anvil. Or where's the 50 kilo sort of begin and end if you talk about the weight of a power hammer?
The cylinder that falls down.
Yes, only the ram that falls down.
Only that. Okay,
without
so
the die.
that's the statement. That's the stating factor.
Yeah.
Okay, and
without
then,
the die, because with the die it's like only fallen weight. As we talk about fallen weight with the die, and only ram size without the die.
Okay. I think that's fantastic. I mean, I've had so much fun with this. Tell me about what was the first hammer you guys got, and what kind of got you into it, and when did you kind of now get into the whole idea of probably the reconditioning of them?
I mean, the first hammer we got was a Sahindler with 50 kilos of ram weight, kind of the same hammer than you have now. Mm-hmm. And at first it was, of course, because we don't have the capacity to fit a bigger hammer in the workshop, and we also rebuilt that one, because that hammer was sitting outside for a long time, the Sahindler one, and we fitted new pipes, new piston rings, had some major repairs done to it, and it was, I mean, it was a treat working with it, but at some point we wanted a bigger hammer, and just gone for the two-piece designs hammer, because we had more space, we had a forklift to get it inside the workshop and all the stuff. And then got a second hammer, a smaller ones, and then we just stick to the 2-piece design because we love them. And we also love the hammers with 2 valves because the control's a little bit better. I mean, there are small stuff that we like on hammers like that.
It's interesting, like how much play around. Like I've discovered that the reactiveness of the foot pedal is quite brilliant. I mean, you can really kind of play around. But if you perhaps want to make adjustments, is there things that you shouldn't kind of do in that respect? Like, yes, I want to slightly lower the pedal a little bit further down so you can get your toe in. And I realize that the spring could be a little bit stronger to bring it back up. Maybe at some points, or is there points where
Yes, you can. I mean, the spring you just can fit a bigger one, or like not a bigger one, like a stronger one. And personally, I don't completely fix the foot pedals for customers because I just tell them do it by yourself because I don't know how big your foot is. If you want to weld something onto the pedal, it's only that the pedal itself only is colored with a thin coating, yes. So you can just grind a little bit off, weld something on. I don't know, because we have it different on like every hammer has it a little bit different because you need to work with the hammer and see how you can improve the pedal.
Yeah. Do you know what's quite interesting was what the Soulamer, which I think is quite honestly a beautiful name. Soulamer, the foam, it's very sexy. It's very sensual. I feel like if I have another child, I must call it Soulamer. But the foam, for anybody to picture it, it's a very velvety, soft, textured, quite spongy, not hard at all. It's not like a cow mat or dense rubber. And I mean, I'm sure there's different variations in type, but the stuff you sent over was, some offcuts and strips, and I put them on top of the wood. And then luckily my forklift is big enough to lift it. I think it's like 10 more kilos, and I think the back wheels might lift. I've got the perfect, it's made for it. So I put it into position, and I'm able to move it around and do all that kind of stuff. And as I lowered it down onto some big blocks of sort of a railway sleeper wood, I had the Soulamer kind of on top of it. And I kept moving it around, and I suddenly realized that every time I could slightly push the power hammer, and there was a little wobble in it. And I was like, oh God, I haven't got the wood level. And I'd take the power hammer off and I'd adjust it some more. And then I'd kind of like make sure everything was perfect. I'd put the hammer back on top and it would wobble again. The amazing thing, the Soulamer is actually, it's got that much kind of give in it, even with like a near 2 ton, like 1.8 ton power hammer to sort of like absorb and slightly give it. So I had to take it away. It more or less sits better on the wood. Yeah. There's that much kind of like, I suppose you could say resistance or insulation. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Did you use the thick Soulamer or the thin one?
There was a little between it, so I think I kind of I can't remember which one I used, to be honest. But I've taken them out temporarily, and I'm feeling that after a year or so of maybe playing with it, I'm probably going to make a concrete house. Yeah. I'll make a precast concrete housing. I'll reinvent the foot pedal to be lower down then, maybe around the housing, and I'll probably bring it up because I'm about 6'4". I'm quite tall, so I'd maybe like to bring it off the ground and sort of like. But I'm gonna use it for a year or so, and I'll either probably not do a damn fucking thing, or else I'm really going to go to town on it and like make something quite permanent and special. But I think you have to use it, live with it, find the height before I kind of go making the cement. If you know what I mean.
Of course. I mean, there are different sizes and also different Soulamers used for different ways. And we that were offcuts, and we just thought maybe the thinner ones will work out fine on that kind of hammer.
Oh, it's perfect, and thank you for doing it. I will integrate it. I think what I was praising was how effective it is actually as a sort of a insulating or a foam kind of material. But is there like the rule of thumb, for example, with anvils? which is another conversation totally unto itself. They sort of say if you stand perfectly straight, your sort of your knuckles should just about kind of touch the surface, or is it something, there's people have different opinions on it. Is there a certain point or a recommended height for the top of the anvil on a power hammer, the height it should be at?
No, what's your preferred height? It's where you can work best on the power hammers. I mean, some people like the power hammers pretty low, so they can, I don't know, look into it on the upper side. And some people want to just see in straight on the die.
Straight back and whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we have it on our hammers. The height is a little bit different on each hammer, because we have a 50 kilogram hammer that sits at pretty high for our students to work easier on it. So students can go on the hammer and just look straight on the die and don't need to move their head or something like that. But in my opinion, I don't like it too high. I like it a little bit more on the
you probably engage with it, like you say. If you slightly bend over into it, you feel like you're kind of part of
you feel like part of the hammer, and you can
it's like you're sticking your nose in. You're sticking your nose in a little bit. Kind of, like you're peeking through a keyhole.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, I like it when I bend in a little bit on the hammers. I can forge longer stuff, so I can move the working piece beside of my body to get longer shits in.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you forge, right? I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. But I feel that I have more control if the hammer or the anvil sits a bit lower.
Okay, yeah.
Because then I have to bend in, I have to be closer to the workpiece, and then at least for me, I feel to have a bit more control that way.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because my first time
is more stable.
Yeah, my first time using it was actually with Tobias in his workshop when I went over for one of the events there, and I've been in love with them ever since. So I can't thank you enough. And actually, it's this podcast. It was the last time I was on here that it came up, and at the end of the podcast I asked you if you ever had one, and you said, actually I do. And that was the start of something beautiful. So I can't thank you enough. It really was a case of being in the right place at the right time.
It's a nice
what would somebody do if you guys, are you planning to do it again for other people who are bound to be interested?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we just bought another one.
Yay.
A smaller one.
A 30 kilo. Yeah,
a smaller one. And we're going to rebuild it again, make a foundation for it. Because it doesn't have a foundation, and we want to sell it with one, maybe with concrete or steel. I don't know yet. Maybe what the customer needs. But it's nice to work with those hammers. Like fix it, make it nice, clean again, and some people are then happy with it. Because there are a lot of hammers around that I don't know. They're just too fucked up to work with. And they're pretty expensive too. And people
can I ask you that horrible question? Like, is there something that maybe you'd recommend to not perhaps invest in or to slightly avoid? I mean, is there in the commercial world, or is there? I mean, people you see tire hammers, and you see sort of maybe a certain brand that's a shit show and actually will fall apart, and after what would be your recommendation to actually wait out for a really good secondhand one that's kind of made like a brick house, or actually there are actually some good brands nowadays that are actually like An Yang or whatever else that are actually coming up to par?
I mean, old hammers, like used hammers, there are a lot good like companies that made hammers. I mean, Pesce is on the top list, but there are also hammers like Hartmann and Benzotti,
Bernstorfer,
Sahin Kuhn, Bernstorfer. Yeah, they're all good hammers. They on different hammers they used different techniques to build the hammers, and also they have different valves and stuff. But normally every hammer performs pretty good if it's in a good condition. But
the reciprocating element of a hammer, the amount of strokes per, is it measured per minute?
Yes.
What's the deciding factor there on the speed in the
but usually
terminology used?
Usually the normal hammers always have kind of the same hits per minute, but you can get like hammers with faster hits per minute with more than that. Sometimes Italian hammers or Becces, there are hammers that hits way faster than the normal ones. But normally, if you want to forge Damascus blades and all this stuff, you will get a normal hammer with normal speeds. And if you want to make a lot of Damascus and move metal really quick, you get like a faster hammer. But in my opinion, you should go for a hammer that's not too fucked up, because you just need to put so much work in it to get it running. Like on old hammers, old Becces, the 1900 ones with 2 valves, they're pretty old, and sometimes they're pretty nasty too, because usually the piston rings are completely fucked up. You need to like realign the valves and all the stuff, and that's just too much work for people that only wants a hammer and want to work with it. If you want to restore it, it's nice, get it, but it's better to take a good look on the hammer and then purchase it.
Alex Steele just did some very interesting videos recently with a sort of a steam one and a number of other hammers, and that they were quite interesting to watch, because I totally underestimated the valves and the complication of the tuning and the balance and everything like that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yeah, it is. It's a lot more complicated than you think. Now, in relation to perhaps stopping your hammer from getting fucked up, I mean, of course, lubrication and the oil and all that kind of side of things. I often saw people, and I've started doing it myself, where you use a piece of wood to keep the hammer within the ram, so that the actual ram doesn't get rusty or exposed, like where I live on the coast. I mean, are there other things you'd recommend?
No.
Oh, okay. So tell me what's the right thing to do?
You can do it because on the Kuhnreiters, normally you will do it, because when you turn on the machine, it hits like 1 or 2 times on the dice, and then just go in the upwards position. That's why I would do it on the smaller hammers like Kuhnreiter and something like that. On bigger hammers, like, I don't care, because people will do it because so they don't get dust or, I don't know, shit on the ram that could have go inside the hammer. But on our hammers, the seals are pretty good, the ram seals, so nothing will go inside. And we use the hammers nearly every day, so I don't care. Sometimes
if you don't use it every day, like that's probably going to be a case with me now. For example, if I don't use the hammer, and
I maybe would do it. So the whole.
So it is
ram
good. It is good practice, perhaps, to trap the ram in the air. Like
you just do it, because if you don't use it every day, just make a wooden block that fits inside. Or I saw Ben make a one with the handle, or I don't know, with the strap that just
the spring, the spring that pulls it away automatically.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah,
because
he uses like a rubber band like you would have on a slingshot. So when the ram opens, it moves back out of the way automatically.
Should you like, they sometimes say like shoot, like when you pull the trigger of a hammer of a gun or something like that without any bullets, or the certain things, is it okay to kind of perhaps hit the hammer off, without anything in the middle? I mean, like is there
no die on die, you shouldn't do that.
No,
definitely because I agree with you. Like that felt like something wrong to do, and that's why you can hit a piece of wood or hit something that's at least got a bit of give, but the actual, you can just damage your tooling, right?
Yeah, the dice.
Yeah, and it can be super dangerous, because
it can crack and metal goes flying.
Yeah, and it becomes a projectile, right? So it's super fast, and it's a sharp piece of metal if something breaks.
Yeah,
that's
always
flying
fun.
through your shop.
I mean, normally the dice are not hardened that hard, so it will not break, because normally they harden to around 55. I don't know, 52 to 55 Rockwell. And
no, that's quite hard.
Normally nothing will happen, but I wouldn't recommend doing it, because I'm not sure what normal hammers, like hand hammers, are hardened. I guess they're hardened 2 to 55 Rockwell or something like that. And there is also the saying like don't hit hard with hard steel, because I saw people in workshops like put in a hammer and throw onto it with another hammer, and then they like broke it, nearly killed someone because of because of like a small piece that cracked out of it and made a project out of it.
One of the things I did was I asked my friend, the electrician, we wanted to find a kind of a key or a mechanism to actually lock the electrics, so that and I've got an emergency stop button with a key in it. You know, it's a common enough key, but it's a key. So next to the control box now, I can hide the key. So, for example, if one of my kids is trying to show off, or even worse, another adult comes along, I think I might even trust my kids more. Who knows? But it basically now isn't, because I mean that's the wonderful thing, is like everybody feels cocky enough when it comes to a big solid tool like this. You just want to hear it make its noise and do its thing. But yeah, you know, there has to be safety, you know, and that's priority.
Yeah, there are also safety features on hammers. There is not a discussion about that, because some people need it for their like for the TÜV, for the government to get it
certification.
Yeah, for the certification on some TÜVs or on some firms, you need like a emergency stop for the hammers.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need that, because we have a company that says I will give you the certifications for the hammers, but they not allowing us to make like an emergency button, because the how do I say that, the risk of getting clamped inside when you push the button
is almost as bad as
is higher than the hammer is just on its zero position, because when you turn on the hammer, it goes into like zero standby. So
the hammer comes down.
No, the hammer goes up when you turn the machine on. So they say like that's like on a press, it's zero position, and when you put the emergency brake, the hammer comes down, and with a 150 kilo ram, the risk of getting clamped in that position is higher than just the ram going up again. We needed to we need to mount something that you cannot like push the throttle by mistake. So that's the only thing we needed to make.
I also, one of the things I hadn't heard anything about or learned about before was the star delta on the power button. Do most power hammers have star delta?
We don't use it because we need a soft start on our hammers, because our motors are pretty big though, because on the 7500 kilo ram they have a 15 horsepower motor on it, and on the 150 kilo ram, I'm not sure how much horsepower it is, it's 22 kilowatts, and you need,
that's a beast.
It is, I mean, it's crazy big motors. And we mounted a soft start, so it turns off on the motor pretty slow.
Okay.
Also on the hammers we have gear drives, so we don't have the belts on it. So when you turn on a hammer with belts, I mean the hammer don't care if it just slips. But on the gear, you don't want to like start it on full mode. You want to start it like slowly, so the gears will not break on it.
Okay.
And the start delta, I mean, that's a good option to
for people who probably don't know what we're talking about. I think it's the way the three-phase is wired, that you have your normal three-phase power, and then they slightly change the wiring structure, so you actually have a little bit more power. So the first setting is like 2/3 power, but it's like a music amp, you know, that you can take to 11. It's 11 for an amp, but with the power hammer. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't have the soft start and you have a 5 horsepower motor, when you start it, you're starting with 50 horsepower, not 5. Yeah.
So I think they're all wired differently. There was only a little bit more power when you put onto the full whack, but it was. I mean, that's just the hammer I have. But yeah,
but it works. I mean, if we had it and we wanted to mount it for you, because I mean, you could directly start that kind of motor, but I wasn't sure what like electric lining you have. So when you have like fuses that are rated higher and can hold up that immediate like electric force, I don't know how to say that, then the fuse will not care. But if you have a smaller fuse, then star delta is recommended.
Cool.
And if you have it, just mount it. Why not? A soft start is a little bit easier to mount because you don't have to wire that star delta. You only need the delta version on the bigger motors, but it's pretty expensive. So a soft start for a motor like that is like $500 or $600. Only the electric component. Then you need like buttons for it and a housing for all the shits, and also electrician needs to like get a certification for that. Then the company for that makes the certifications for the hammers and will need to come again and make that for that soft start. I'm not sure if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. So what other? I mean, like you guys tell me. We've been power hammer talk. We should probably shake it up a bit. I mean, because I think we've been nerding out for quite a while. I mean,
it's almost like that.
I know, and in a brilliant reason too. I mean, like it is fantastic fun. So I've got some wonderful projects to kind of soften and learn. I suppose a little bit of a bit more about it and make some fantastic things. I've got so much to learn, so I'm definitely a newbie on this, and I'm looking forward to learning more. But tell me, let's talk about something completely different.
Yeah, I have a question though, because I knew this was going to happen as soon as Andy said he wanted to join the podcast. We were talking about power hammers for days, but Fingal, you're working on a new project with Anchorage Forge. You have a new beer coming out, and he mentioned that you were gonna somehow like integrate the.
Oh, this
so
is
you
brilliant.
Make cheese.
So just what's kind of fascinating is that Gabe and his wonderful wife, they came over to kind of Ireland on a road trip, and we kind of started the mulling around with the idea of it. Like first of all, I was honored because at the time he came over with a Steve Schwarzer beer, and there's all these legends that have been integrated into the beerdom the beerdom of his wonderful mind. And if you've ever hung out with Gabe, you can see there's a lot going on in his head. He has this ability to he's very gifted, very calm, and very generous. What I mean by generous is that he's a listener, but you can tell there's so much knowledge in his head. And what was kind of fascinating was by even walking around with Gabine and showing all the bits and pieces, he kind of gets the pieces of the puzzle from the microbiology the whole way through to the finished product and what people want. And the simple thing is, of course, you have Damascus, and then you make the knife, and then there's a beer, and then but he took it to another level, and you go into the roots of the whole process. And that I've kind of grown up, and I always have this fantastic expression I tell people when I'm giving a tour of Gabine. I say that microbiology is one of those things that will fascinate you or will scare the shit out of you, and it's really good to be somewhere in the middle, because you need to be fascinated by it. It will spend the rest of its life amazing you if you open your eyes to it. And at the same time as well, everything in this planet tries to kill us. But I mean, don't worry about it, but just know about it. But the cheese, beer, wine, bread, all these kind of things. It's what goes on under the hood that makes the difference, and everything that you do incrementally kind of adds together to make something kind of more magical and more magical. And the more little incremental things that you can learn to make something consistent and better and smoother, and everything about it is what will kind of put you and keep raising the bar of your food or your drink or whatever it is you're making. So I was talking about our curing rooms, and when I was a kid, a very amazing lady came and did her thesis on our cheese and mapped the surface of her cheese, and all the bacteria and the B linens and the coliforms and the pathogens and everything that's probably growing on the surface of her cheese was put under the microscope. And what she did was she found one that had never been named before. So she got to name it. Now, this is pretty much like taking all the stars in the sky and kind of saying, actually, like literally that many things grow on the surface of a rind washed cheese, like thousands. So she found one that had never been named before, and she got to name it. And she called it gabinensis. So gabinensis is kind of interesting because it's a listeria inhibitor. It's one of those bacteria that actually will create a defensive kind of shield, like the force field of the Death Star. And if listeria is anywhere nearby, and listeria is one of those bugs that makes you very sick, so it actually will evict it, will kind of take over, makes an environment inhospitable to listeria. So it's kind of this fascinating thing that makes our cheese taste better, but also makes it a safer. And that's what's lovely about kind of the universe, the micro universe of sort of food. Why are we putting chemicals and preservatives into food when Mother Nature itself can make its own form of defense? You know, that's another story. So what we're doing is that he came up with the idea of making a saison beer, which is a kind of a Belgian style of beer that was always kind of, I think, originally made by farmers and different things. It's kind of like what would happen is it's got a longer shelf life. And it was kind of designed that you'd make it a certain time of year, that when it comes to harvest, you had this fantastic beer that was kind of refreshing and kind of would just have a longer shelf life. And in many periods, the way it was explained to me is that this beer would be used to wash a cheese. So you actually, like we use wine, and we wash our cheese sometimes in a little bit of wine as well as salt water to encourage the molds to grow. So what we're thinking is that this beer is going to come out. He's going to send them to me, and we're going to make some of our cheese and give it the same starting blocks, but at the same time, every day we're going to wash it in the beer that he's made, and then we're going to produce a series of the cheeses with a beer washed rind, and then of course there's the billet and the blade and the knife that we'll make from that as well. So it's like a good old sexy threesome. So that's the project, and he made
an awesome picture.
Oh,
you! I think that's the best one of all the
so
beers.
Stoked. In fact, I feel bad because he's managed to somehow make me sexy. I was waiting for a dirty scar and a worm to come out of my eye, and I was kind of thinking, actually, no, I've just got some glowing red eyes and these fantastic knife wings. I'm kind of like, this is unfair. This is
and like the stinky cheese fumes coming up from the blade. It's awesome.
Stink it up. That's it. I love it. And there's a great friend of mine, a lovely guy called Boo George, who's the guy who took the original photograph, who is one of the most fascinating characters. So I'm really glad he chose that photo. And so yeah, that's one of the fun parts of it all as well. So I mean, this is another great reason to hang out with your friends and do something wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think we're all meeting up. We're all meeting up in Austria as well in May, and I think that would be the
yeah. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, can't wait. This is the thing. We spend all this time, and like even right now, we're having this conversation, but we're not, looking. I think the first time we did a video call when the Power Hammer arrived.
Yes,
but
yeah.
But what I'm kind of finding interesting is that we build these relationships that we all have, and our community is incredible. I mean, like the knife world, the craft world. I mean, it's kind of up there with the food world as well in many kind of ways that, these relationships are forged because we have so much to share and give with each other because we're on the opposite sides of the planet in so many ways. And I think we that openness kind of the whole thing is beautiful. So what I love about this is that there are these occasions when you do kind of, get the chance to get everybody together. And I think it's kind of important. It just makes friendships which are already there probably better. So I think that little one-on-one time to actually meet people and get to spend some time together and raise a glass of crisp Austrian beer.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, definitely. And like when you first, I mean, like you said, we talk to each other on the internet or on the podcast or whatever, and then you meet each other, and it's like you guys were best friends. You've known each other for 20 years, and just continued the conversation, and
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
yeah, everything. Yeah.
So we'll have to tell me a little bit about yourself, Keith. Now, what excitement and exciting things are kind of going on in your world at the moment?
Working. I mean, working on new projects. You got the new blower for the forge.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
That I sent to you.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
It's fantastic. I think what was lovely about it is the simplicity and the solidness of it. You know, it's you know, you can't ask for more. It's kind of compact, and you kept the whole process of the pipe work and everything as just utterly logical. It's plug and play, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Not, you know, and there's a bit more
Did you
distance between the pipe. I mean, there was fears that the forge, the heat can travel back through the pipe and actually melt the in the original design. It would melt the 3D printed kind of funnel, and you won't have that problem in this case and stuff. And so.
And did you have the funnel before and you worked with that?
I did, but I fucking broke the funnel on the
or?
first day, and then I had to glue the whole thing together because I accidentally cracked it tightening it up or something like that. And so I didn't realize some of those printed things can actually be quite brittle in some ways. I don't know if there's different plastics you can use for. I haven't played around with them much, but it was I'm not a pro. I can't talk about these things. I mean, I'm kind of been grindstock removal for like 15, probably 20 years, but 15 years properly. So I'm literally back to square one again with this forging kind of side of things. I mean, I've done it so many times over the years, but I it's more of a voyeur than I was an actual obsessive.
He's not a pro, but his knife sell out within like 5 minutes when he does the drop.
But that's the thing. I mean, this is the internal struggle that I have now, right? Because I can get in touch with Albert and Andy and kind of like get some fantastic Damascus from the guys. I can get a from Tobias. I can get some Apex Ultra, and I can get stuff through yourself on your website. I can get the Damas steel and there's so many things. I don't really need to forge my own in so many ways in this modern day compared to like a long time ago when stuff wasn't so readily available. I mean, you can even spec out and ask for some tapering or do special things now. You can even get in touch with companies that can almost have a like a pre-made bevel or like integral knife design. I've seen. I've never used them, but the thing is that there's something incredibly efficient and logical in many ways about just grindstock removal. Cut the blade out, heat treat it to the best of your ability, grind it out to the best of your ability, put a really sexy handle on it, and then spend a lot of time making it perfect and do that many times and repeat, and you're an efficient knife maker. So why do we kind of go into that forging kind of world? And the reason is there's a little bit more passion. There's so much more. The effort that's shown raises the bar. And I think also there's that urge to be so much more, to stand out more and to actually create layer and texture and to almost go from that 2D into the 3D element with the forging and show that kind of more man-made element to it than it just being almost perfect and sort of of machined. And I think that's something that I want to kind of be able to do, and having the tools is something. I mean, look, if I was just crunching numbers and shit was hard, I probably shouldn't have built the forge. I should just keep doing what I'm doing, and if not, become more efficient. And it's the opposite. I feel like to actually improve my my image as a knife maker and actually to improve as a knife maker, I need to explore all aspects of it, and actually the forge is probably the best thing I could do in relation to raise my level of craftsmanship, I suppose, in some ways, if that's not a vulgar way or a bad way of putting it.
Yeah, but I mean, as you improve and you have more understanding of how forging works and heat treating and all the different complexities that go along with it, you want to you want to dive into that. It's just like this rabbit hole.
Oh, it's
in every
fascinating.
direction.
But every time you do that, you've got to throw in, another grain refining, another normalizing cycle, a little bit of tempering, a few things.
Yeah.
Then you're ready to cut it out. Then you're ready to heat treat. Then you're ready to temper. It is a complexity that, layers of complexity that you add into the process that is really worth it. It's suddenly when realizing why it's worth it is almost hard to kind of put into words. Until you're obsessed, when you really do become obsessed with the knife world. And I think that's the difference. I feel like collectors and people who are knife people would probably sooner hear the levels of skill that somebody has. And I feel like I'm probably, I feel like I've accomplished in many ways as a knife maker over the years, but I'm not a sort of a blade. I can't, that word bladesmith. I feel like that comes from striking a hammer onto hot metal. Is that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But that goes in. I mean, all those rabbit holes go in every single direction. It's like endless. I think that's one of the greatest things about knife making. You can be a leather worker, a sheath maker, a handle person, somebody that stabilizes wood. You can be it goes in every direction. It's endless.
Yeah, and with that comes the questioning yourself. I mean, I'm always fascinated by I fall in love with bog oak, then I fall out of love with it. Fuck it. I had an email from somebody because it had grayed out and it had aged because he wasn't oiling it or waxing it, and I probably hadn't told him enough to do that. And you fall in love with materials because they're beautiful in the story, and you forget that actually, look, if this is going to stay on a shelf and not be touched, it's the most beautiful knife in the world. And if it's a user, but when and why do we use certain materials, and then how thick you grind behind the edge, and if you give a knife with the thinnest edge and the most stunningly graceful, thin, elegant knife that cuts like a laser. If that gets into the wrong hands, it's going to get mangled. Somebody starts cutting up bones, for veal stock or something like that with it. It doesn't have a chance. We can go through these inner struggles. If we don't make a knife bespoke for somebody and have like 20 emails back and forth, which we don't really want to do, or do we? I don't know, but it's an interesting point of our rabbit hole is again incredibly complex in some ways. The more you try to refine it and make these very precision knives and objects, and I think there are moments where I just get on with it. Now I'll question myself. I'll go down a little moment of challenging myself, and then I kind of just make my mind up that actually, no, fuck it. I was worried about it. I've analyzed it. It's still worth it. I just have to learn to communicate better with people or how I sell it, or my terms and conditions, or my information page on my website, or whatever else. But this is the thing. Who would have thought that knives could be so fucking complicated, and that's what's brilliant about them.
But Fingal, I don't really buy the efficiency argument.
Oh, brilliant.
I mean, time-wise or economically speaking, it might be more efficient to just stock removal a knife, right? But material-wise, it isn't, right? Because you have to, if you're doing stock removal, you have to grind off all the stuff you don't need. But if you can forge a blade into shape. And then material-wise, it's way more efficient to forge it into shape, because then you can make a knife out of a cutoff, right? So if the cutoff is thick enough, you can just forge it out. Draw it out, and have a Damascus knives. I mean, that's what we did like last week with 3 or 4 cutoffs that were laying around in our shop from Damascus classes, which was like pieces that was 10 centimeters long.
Not even, maybe smaller, even smaller.
Yeah.
Maybe small, and we made a chef knife out of
beautiful
these
knives.
Cutoffs.
Get beautiful parents.
If you have 7 power hammers in your shop, sure.
Yeah, but for
No, you only
you only need your hand for that. Maybe a little.
Yeah, you can.
Little bit of power hammery, but you can do it all with the hand though.
And then it's material-wise, it's more efficient, right? Because you don't have so much waste then. Because stock removal is a waste of a lot of good material. Right?
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. I mean, in some ways, like, again, back to time. I mean, if you're literally at the point where this steel is in the condition where you're cutting out the blank, heat treating it, and then grinding it down and putting it in. Whereas if you are heat treating, like I said, the kilns are running in the background. And again, you're always other jobs happening while you're doing this. It's the multiple steps. If it was a race, if it was a race from beginning to end, who would win? And that's probably not what this question is about. It's probably more about the efficiencies and the logic of actually, in the long term, being able to use everything, utilize everything, and actually also test yourself and that pride in keeping your job exciting through the whole process is also just as important. Because otherwise, if you are a machine that makes the exact same knife over and over again, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, like, it's very efficient. Is it as much fun as constantly ducking and weaving and seeing opportunity in something and being excited by that, and then that makes you get out of bed quicker in the morning?
Yeah, this would have been my second argument.
Yeah.
The second argument, it's way more fun.
Yeah. That is a very good argument. It's a very good argument.
Yeah.
Which is probably why Fingal makes knives on the side, because you have the same kind of challenges and problems in your normal day-to-day life, right? Making cheese.
Well, one helps the other.
Working on the farm.
I'm usually solving the problem with one while doing the other, and that element, that point where you forget a word, it's on the tip of your tongue and you can't get it. And the more you think about it, the more you can't get it.
Yeah,
and then you forget about it, you think about something else, and then it comes back to you. You have it. So I feel that I'm just blessed that I have an infrastructure of people that help me out here, when I'm doing one or the other. And I'm really actually happy because I've just made a phone call this week. For the past 2 years of knife making, I've saved up enough money to put about 106 kV of solar panels on one of our biggest sheds, which is going to reduce our electricity bill. That's two 40-watt inverters. And then we're going to, this is all paid for by the knives. And so one element, you could probably say, we make 2 tons of cheese a week. We kind of make, the same in salamis and cured meats. So there's 20 employees. Why am I fucking around in a workshop playing around with knives? It's because, quite honestly, the food is the backbone. It's something that's my connection. It's my family's history. I'm sort of the 5th generation of the farm. It's so important to me, but it's a vocation, if you know what I mean by that word. It's not the most profitable thing in the world, but we're rich in the fact that the people who work with us, the people we supply, like top restaurants, amazing delicatessen shops. I don't want to ever lose these contacts in our life, but there's always going to be something in our life that's going to be successful and something that's failing. The farm, the food, the cheese, the knives. One will always be better than the other, but the integration of them all is actually both complicated, but at the same time cogs in a clock that kind of keep the ticking going. And the story gets more interesting with that. And while I have the energy to do it, I kind of I can't make things more simple. I kind of just am really good at making it more complicated. But there's certain things you have to accept, like don't be the person who keeps coming up with ideas and then walks away expecting somebody else to do it. That's a terrible trait. But knives make me happy, and it's nice. It's like the tool that the kind of, we cut up the food that we make. It's kind of it does tie in beautifully. And I'm a wanky son of a bitch. Like I love my mad handles and my strange materials, but in the end, it's the most honest of tools.
It is something that sets you apart from everybody else that's working at Gabon.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I mean, there's a lot of people.
You make the knives, and it's you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it may sound like fun. I love people, whenever we talk about how we're knife makers, or we that kind of side of things, there's an element of utter kind of fascination by people who are like, oh, I'd love to give that a go. And it's true, there's some element of it's brilliant, but you kind of forget that the back breaking element of grinding 12 blades in a day, and the hands that are cracked and broken, the burns from catching things, and the constant nicks, and the living in dust masks and sort of avoiding every kind of dust that wants to kill you. I mean, like the dust from abalone shell wants to shut down your liver. Every other dust wants to kind of slowly damage you. But they're all means to, and I think there are positives and negatives. One of the things I love to embrace is it's a creative outlet with a functional tool at the end. That to me is something kind of magical. This hard work and the monotony of certain elements of it are about putting the pieces of the puzzle together to make have a creative output at the end. And actually the sweat, grime, pain and everything else is a badge of honor along the way of sort of an interesting element of creating a series of efficiencies, and that there's as much of a kick about that. The most common question I've always asked is that whole thing about, is there ever a knife you wanted to keep? And of course there's knives you're proud of, but I've never wanted to keep one. What I've always wanted to say is I really hope I can make that one again and it wasn't just a fluke. Can my skill set allow me to completely recreate that? What did I just get lucky by free grinding that hollow into it, or creating the sort of the ratios or something like that? And I think that's the challenge that actually you probably rise to, that kind of gives you more endorphins than actually the success of completion.
Well, you've just increased that factor then by getting a power hammer. So
yes,
if you make something,
exactly.
you make your own steel. Can you make it again?
I'm already fantasizing about is it a hydraulic press or rolling mill? One at a time. But that's interesting. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping to meet up with Tobin and sort of see his tools and those kind of things when I'm over there as well, and see that there's some fascinating things. And did you see Gabe's new grinder?
Sure.
Yes.
The wet
What
grinder.
a beautiful!
I saw it in person before he got it.
That's the Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's the Ferrari of sort of things there. I mean, it's kind of unique because it's incredibly logical for the kind of high carbon steel kind of world. I mean, nothing's wrong with a 2x72, but there is something that's kind of interesting about the multiple steps of logic. Because we've seen Benjamin Camone, I think, is the first person I've seen to use these kind of water-based wide grinders. I mean, are they kind of more common than that? I mean, has everybody else sort of seen them a lot?
No.
Yeah. So
No, that's a Benjamin Camone thing. That's that's what that grinder was based off of, actually. So
yeah, I think I definitely. I mean, I'm sure they're everywhere because I'm sure a secondhand machine, wasn't it? So I mean, like they've definitely been out there. I mean, but there's a great friend of mine, Jason Borst, who's a is it the word lapierist? Somebody who works with precious stones, and I could have talked to him for hours because he started explaining to me the whole world of sort of how to cut and polish stone, and how important water becomes, and these special diamond encrusted specialized belts for sort of polishing stones and the whole thing. And like if anybody ever look him up and engage with him, because there's probably 1,000 things that we could learn from that world and how to improve or how to integrate, something stunning into the handles, or a story into the whole process, but even into the steel and the blades and little tricks. Like my knife handle has a silly little step in it that is such a pain in the ass to work with, because wouldn't it be great if I just made an oval handle, a plain simple one, but the step kind of is my character and it's something I really love. But getting into the corner is something that, there's little tricks. Everything, we all take pride in our little tricks that we learn along the way that sort of, make it simpler or kind of speed up a process. And I love those Utenized deburring wheels. That's one of my favorite sort of hacks for things. But yeah, I feel like I want to kind of have a go on that grinder. I must try it.
Well, you're coming to the knife show Austria, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you'll get a chance to stop by Camone shop.
I have.
afterwards.
I've been in Benjamin's workshop. I think that was when I was over last year with Tobias. I popped in there. He very gracefully opened his doors, but I didn't actually turn the machine on. we were doing other we were making a charity knife at the time, and yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of the knife show, on the last episode that we had, we were for us from the knife podcast and Martin Huber, we're going to give away 2 sets of 2 tickets, and we picked the winners already, and Martin made a little recording for us, and I'm going to play it for you guys now so you can hear the winners.
What's up, everybody? Martin Huber from Knife Show Austria here. The winners of the ticket giveaways for the Knife Show are Anita Müller and Messerschmiede Jettenbach. Please, guys, send me a DM on the Instagram page of Knife Show Austria. I'll ship you your tickets. And to everybody else who sadly didn't win, I hope to see you guys on 10th and 11th of May at the biggest knife show in Austria. And now, let's go back to Fingal, Ferguson, and the work for it people.
To work for it, people.
Yeah, that's what I said, right?
Speaking
people.
of charity knives, I'm very much looking forward to the upcoming project that we're all working together on.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We have a great lineup this year. We just had a little talk with the knife organizers from the show in Solingen, and we're gonna have a big booth, 4 meters by 2.5 meters, 2 people at the table, and they print out like a little pamphlet when you come in the door, and in the pamphlet there's going to be a full page from us in explaining each of the knife makers. There's 20 of us this year again, and hopefully we can raise a bunch of money for the organization. Klingen for Goodness is the name, so Knives for Good is the name of the project we're doing, and the charity goes to Klingen for Goodness, and they help support children in need across Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. And last year we raised 18,000. This year we're shooting for 25. Let's see if we can hit the goal. But we got a great lineup. You're with us here this year, and you got Ben Camone is making the knife template. So each person is gonna make the knife in Ben Camone's shape.
Yeah, the template was in the back of the manual for the power hammer. So thank you,
Really?
Albert. Now-
Yeah, really?
How?
I don't know. Did
Oh,
you not
you
realize?
forgot-
I think
forgot
I
it.
have a couple of other confidential papers that were accidentally printed off as well.
Oh shit!
That's funny. Yeah.
No dick
Yeah,
pics, just the template for a knife and some price lists.
I was just printing out the instructions at the very last moment. The truck was already arrived, and I forgot about it, and I wanted to put it in for you,
Yeah,
and
thank
maybe
you.
just print it and grab the whole stuff from the print.
No, it's fantastic. You saved me a trip to the office.
Yeah, nice. Super. And I was wondering where the template is going.
Mm-hmm.
So
Uh,
you guys didn't start the knife yet, then?
No.
I've got a new kiln arriving. We're some great thanks to Even Heat and John from Multitool. They arranged to kind of get a kiln over. So I've got the one with the tap controller.
Nice.
And a 22 and a half inch kiln is literally on its way over, and the tempering oven as well. So I'm kind of interested. I think the thing is I've always had a bit of a dodgy tempering. I always use my older kilns for the tempering as well. And, it is nice to just have that comfort of saying, look, if I want to set it to 180 degrees, it's not 180 degrees up here. It's actually, consistent, and you can actually get exactly what you're looking for. Because a lot of the thermocouples for the kilns will do exactly what you want at the higher temperature range, but they won't be as precise in the lower temperatures.
Yes.
So one of the things I found that was kind of really helpful are those infrared laser kind of pointers. Are great, because if you open the door, you can check the temperature of all the blades, and there's quite a fluctuation. I mean, if you throw 20 or 30 blades in to get tempered, you will see some fluctuations from the blades on the outside, and I'm sure the thermal mass will come through. But Jason Borswood actually had a fantastic idea of actually making a sort of an insulated tube that had sort of refractory floor, and the floor has the heating elements through it, so that as that comes up, you're actually creating a thermal mass that actually is consistent, with a good kind of temperature, so that actually by placing the blade on top of the floor, they would actually very much kind of connect, as opposed to being an air-based sort of. So yeah, basically using thermal mass as your sort of consistency of temperature. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to have a very accurate tempering oven, which I just feel is another element of control.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury to have the second oven.
Definitely. I'm probably going to cook some food in there as well, I'm sure, to celebrate.
Yeah, Albert and Andy have, what do you guys have, like 3 or 4 ovens?
Yeah, we have 4 kilns for heat treating, like for higher temperatures, and 2 ovens for lower temperatures, like they're from a laboratory.
Mm.
Yeah.
I found them very
Yeah, but
hard to find. That's the thing, because to buy a new lab-based one, like there can be 5,000, if not more. And then if you get very simple kitchen-style convection ovens and you add your own thermostat to them, you do have the ability to maybe tweak and make your own. I mean, Tobias has a fantastic kind of oven that he's added additional thermocouples to actually get them quite or very efficient. And I think that's something that's definitely one way of doing it. To guarantee a consistent temperature.
I mean, even with a cheap PID controller.
PID, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. The PID.
You can set the temperatures, but you definitely need a dedicated second oven, because, like you said, when you're working in different temperatures, the fluctuation is big.
The fluctuation. I think that's actually a great.
The fluctuation.
No, I think it's interesting that these. One of the things I've also been, and it was. Do you know what I really, of all the media I've watched lately, Benjamin's past posts and reels, and everything he's done with his the knives with the palm handles. His last kind of what did he call his range? The last knives. What was the? I think we're all getting quite tired, isn't it? It's kind of late. But the interesting thing about that was seeing the salt, the fluidized sand killings.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They are fantastic.
Yes,
Albert and Andy, have you ever thought about going down that road?
We've thought about it, yeah.
Because the efficiency, do you know what I was amazed at? Is that by the time, because this whole bunch of sand or whatever, if you set it to 850 degrees, as soon as you drop or lower the blade into it, it's seconds, isn't it? It's like within a minute, the blade is at temperature. Am I right? Or within a couple, depending on the size of the blade, of course, and everything else.
I think so.
It's
yeah.
almost instant, which of course lends itself to incredibly efficient heat treating and the from tip to spine, like you get the great results through the whole thing. I mean the salts can be dangerous if you have any moisture on your blade. You have Mount Vesuvius. But the fluidized sand belts, and I don't know, do they take a long time to heat up? That was something I was kind of curious about.
I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Have any idea.
Yeah, but still,
it does take a while. I had a class with Tobias. It takes a little while to heat up. When I did the class, this was quite a few years ago, and he actually had it all like computerized, so the blade would like move over. Like if you picture like a CNC machine, it would move over the top of the sand bath, dip it down into the blade, and it picked it back up again all by itself. Yeah. Since then, he's changed it. He does it manually, but it is
it's
quite a different
because I mean
way of heat treating.
Yeah, but is it a particular type of sand? I mean, of course, there's all that logic as well. Like what is actually, are there different variations of different things you can add to these, or
that I'm not sure, but there has to be. I mean.
Yeah.
But when you're heat treating with an oven, you're working on like air convection, and the thing with the sand bath is that you have a complete encased heat treat. It's like dropping it into a liquid. I mean, that's what it is basically at that point. Yeah. So you have contact on the whole entire blade immediately instead of waiting for the surrounding air.
Yeah, no,
it's change the temperature
logical.
of the blade.
And there's a few. What's that other thing with salt quenching, par quenching, and there's all these other things. I must kind of look into those a little bit more. There's these higher temperature salt baths. You kind of come out of the
Yeah, but they're pretty dangerous.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no, but this is a lower
yeah.
temperature. I think these. Look,
okay.
we're about to open a can of worms here, when we should probably have Lauren Thomas or Tobias with us for this kind of chat.
Yeah, but because I saw it on a guy named Kaken Knives from Switzerland, and he was doing like salt baths, and he made a video about it because it's pretty dangerous. Because if maybe water comes into the salt bath, then you will get kind of a explosion, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's hard enough to fry chips or chicken.
Yeah.
never mind 1,000, 850 degree. Yeah.
Yeah, never mind.
Any other wonderful news or things happening in the world? Bar, all the America is definitely getting a lot of attention at the moment. So, and apart from that,
Why is that? What you mean?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited that we're going to a Blade Show this year. Me, Andy, and Albert.
fantastic!
Will all be
Yeah.
together.
I'm excited about
Yeah.
that.
That's going to be a nice trip. I've been waiting forever. I think probably like the last 10 years. Every year I say I'm going to go. And it's happening.
It's a great.
It's
I've
good.
got a contact for your friend who's a fantastic barbecue place just around the corner from that in there. So I'll give you his details. For that.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
fantastic. But I went 2 years ago now, and I had the most incredible time. And rent a good Airbnb, share it with friends. I think that's the way to do it if you're not staying in the hotel itself.
Yeah.
And just get out. I wish I actually saw more of the city and kind of travel around more. But the highlights for me were like kind of going to the diners and sort of having the fantastic food and just meeting people for the first time. But definitely kind of emerging yourself. Like you know the States better than I did. The novelties for me, or the simplest things were the exciting
Yeah.
things to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm American. I know the States. I grew up on the East Coast, but you can go to like southern states and it's like going to a different country in Europe.
Yeah.
It's they're all different kinds of foods. They move a little bit slower. Restaurants are different. Everything's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to do it. Who's going with you, or what do you have planned?
Me, Albert, and Andy, and a customer of mine from Forge Works, Christoph Geerding, is going to be presenting a table at Blade Show.
Fantastic.
So he's going to stay with us at the hotel. And yeah, we're renting a big muscle car. What do we have?
Challenger, right?
Dodge Challenger.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Dodge Challenger. That's the pickup, isn't it? Like the big Dodge Challenger.
No. That's a smaller car.
No.
Smaller car, like
Like a Chevy Camaro, but a Dodge version.
Okay.
it's a 2-door or a 4-door car.
It's a 2-door. You guys are sitting in the back
okay.
like little bitches. No, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, we're like 15 minutes away from the show from our hotel, but we need to get from the airport to the hotel, and I think we're gonna be there 5 days or 6 days, something like that altogether.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be fun. Can't wait to meet all the guys there and talk to the people we talk to and have been talking to for the last 10 years or so on Facebook, but not in person. You know what I mean? Nobody will know who we are because you'll have to wear like a name tag with your Instagram name on it or something for people to know who you are.
I mean, everybody always has their T-shirts on anyway. Usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't wait to meet the sausage man.
Ah, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. It'll be cool. So, Fingal, do you have any new projects other than you've already talked about that you want to let everybody know before we end the episode?
Do you know, I suppose, yeah, there's a few things. This is the time of year now where it's kind of, I mean, like there's a great expression where there's a grand stretch in the evening. The days are, you don't get up in darkness so much. It's starting to kind of be a little bit kind of a longer day. You're going home and there's still a little bit of light and stuff. And so I think it's getting a little bit more positive. Spring is around the corner. We've got the solar project that we're working on. There's the Forge will be kind of wrapped up and sort of getting that all together. There's all the food festivals are starting to kind of come together. I did an interesting documentary with a company called Stripe. They're the ones who do the kind of card payments thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing. Hopefully, I might have an adventure in. I want to. We might involve a trip to New York, or maybe it'll happen here. But overall, I think they're all kind of coming together. Just kind of the festivals and the things. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to to sort of, I suppose, spring. I feel spring is coming. It's around the corner.
Yeah, it's a great time. I know what you mean. It's good to have a winter over. We didn't really have a strong winter with snow and stuff, but the darkness is go to work in the dark, come home in the dark. It's not a great time. Mentally, I mean. Yeah.
Only positive things ahead. Head down, drive
That's
on.
right. That's right. Keep moving along. Yeah. So, good luck with your power hammer. We're looking forward to seeing some videos and new blades and Damascus steel combinations that you're gonna come up with that are repeatable.
I'm gonna have to make a lot of ugly things before I make something efficient.
Yeah. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll definitely have you back
Well,
on.
huge thanks for having me. It's always a
Thanks,
pleasure,
yeah.
and I love talking to you guys. So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
All right, guys. Then we will talk to you all next week.
Yep.
Bye for now.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Sashimi.